Hey, this is Ron from Standing Wolf, and welcome to Bush Stories. We got arguably a legendary guest with us today. He's known for his instinctive archery, his trick shots, his coaching style is incredible. If you've watched YouTube videos on traditional archery, you've definitely come across him. He's going to be sharing some awesome hunting stories with you guys. Obviously, his philosophy on instinctive archery and just shooting in general and mindset is amazing. You're going to love that part. Anyways, without further ado, I'd love to welcome Jeff Kavanagh to Bush Stories.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Ron, and welcome to Bush Stories. We got such a fantastic guest for you guys. If you guys know anything about trad legends, we got one with you today. We got Jeff Kavanagh here, and Jeff, it looks like you're cooking up something pretty awesome, actually.
I'm heating up pea soup. I haven't eaten yet because I've been working on the floor. So,
like I said, guys, Jeff Kavanagh, if you guys have seen his YouTube channel, I mean, just a shooting master, I would have to say. Jeff, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm a huge fan. Your videos help me so much with form, back tension. I shoot instinct myself, so that concept of snap shooting really resonated with me. And yeah, I think we're all, everyone's curious to know what you've been up to. I like to be able to talk to you about just everything and everything. So Jeff, welcome to Bush Stories.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for sharing the pea soup.
Yeah.
Jeff, I know I was looking at some of your videos and you mentioned that it was your grandfather who got you introduced into hunting or to shooting. How did you make this transition from just shooting into actual trad? Like, what got you actually into trad to begin with?
Well, when I was a kid, I was always fascinated with Robin Hood, Errol Flynn.
Yeah.
That still is my favorite movie. It'll always be my favorite movie. I always liked, when playing as kids, cowboys and Indians, I was always playing the Indian because I always had a bow and arrow in my hand. I mean, I was just always been drawn to archery. And so I'd be at my grandparents', but I was really lucky in it. When school ended, I went straight up to my grandparents' place in Sudbury. They lived on a lake. And then they've also got the cabin. And, I would spend all my summers there fishing and exploring in the woods and making bows and arrows and stuff, branches and stuff. I was never any good at it, but it was just always fun.
Yeah.
So I got my first bow, I guess, when I was 11 or 12. And I just went from there and I'd done a lot of shotgunning with my grandfather. He taught me a lot of the basics. And so, again, it was just transferring a skill over from one to the other.
Right.
And I always enjoyed doing the one. So I just thought, how is this? I'm still shooting something. So there must be something similar to this.
Right.
And so I just went from there.
Did you find that, because if we were to look back at your videos, you obviously excel at it. I mean, your shots are incredible. And I think one of the videos, if not a lot of the videos that a lot of people are drawn to are like your trick shots and that. And we were talking just before I hit record here, kind of a little bit of the backstory about how you got into transitioning to trick shots. Maybe you can tell the audience what you're telling me before, but kind of the story in that and just like the benefit, what you thought, how it helped you with what you're going through.
Well, it's just number one, it's like I get bored easy. And I just standing at a target all day long and shooting, it just doesn't interest me.
Right.
So I like moving targets. I like the challenge of chasing something down and shooting it. And so I would watch Byron Ferguson and things and see on YouTube and see he'd do trick shots. And I think, yeah, I can do that. And so I would just, try it for fun and do it. But it was also like, it was a good distraction. At the time, I was going through some really bad health problems. And the prognosis wasn't good. And so shooting was a great way for me to clear my mind and take my mind off of things.
Right.
And that's when I started doing trick shots and trying to come up with new things to do. And you see that if you've ever watched my trick shots, notice that it's basically when I do the trick shot, normally it's the first time I ever did it.
When you recorded?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's insane. There was ones where like Lucy gave me an idea where have a bullseye and then throw something up and have to hit both at the same time.
What?
So that was when I have a clay pigeon on the wall and I have a breath mint.
Yeah.
So I did that. And that was the first time I ever did that shot. The, first time I ever hit two swinging things at the same time. First time I ever. So I just film it for fun and then I just post it, whatever, I didn't think very much of it. It's just shooting and, I've never considered anything I do to be anything that no one else can't do if they want to.
I think what the funny thing is, a lot of people haven't done it, especially the double candle wick swinging shot. If anyone hasn't seen, I'll post a video over top of this, but that shot was amazing. I mean, was there any sort of lead time to get to that point with shooting? Like did you have to practice? Was that something, because you said you just get
that's the first time I did it.
That's insane.
That video took me 21 tries. I counted the tapes, 21 tries to get it. But I think I hit one candle 15 times. So out of 21 times, I hit one candle 15 times and nailed it the one time. So, but I always try to put my misses in there, right? Because no one ever, that's the thing about trick shots. People do a trick shot and look how great I am. I did this and this. And this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we know it took you 10 times to get it. So what? I mean, it's fun to do, but it doesn't make you special because a trick shot's only good if it's repeatable.
Right.
If you can do it again and again and again and again, then it's doing well for you. But, to just knock a one off and do that and, without any of the background stuff behind it, that's what's important. That's what's neat to me is geez, how many times did I actually take to get that darn thing? How many, what did I go through to figure that out, or to do that? And
just to let people know, those are all instinctive shots.
Yeah. You can't, there's no way that you could gap or do it. I can't, I'm left eye dominant and I'm actually strongly left eye dominant. And if I try to look at the point of my arrow, it's looking like this.
Right.
I just can't, I have to close my eye. And then you lose all your depth perception. I don't want to shoot like that. I've done that. I've messed around with gap and string walking just because I wanted to do it, because I wanted to learn it, because I think it was important to expand. And I can do that stuff, but I have to close my one eye. And I just don't enjoy the shot process.
Would you say that the trick shots of if someone were to say, if I were to start trying it out, is it beneficial to do those type of high pressure shots? And would you say the advantage is transferable to the actual hunting process? If you're
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I figured that.
Absolutely. Yeah. The more variety you get in the different types of shots, the more you see, the better you get. So doing the trick shots really did help me a lot to improve as well. And it gives you the confidence, when you can hit a swinging candle at 25, 30 yards.
Oh, for sure.
That deer doesn't, it's as long as he doesn't jump the string, right? That's the most important thing.
Oh,
and so
awesome.
it's just, it's fun that way. It does help. Playing around and messing around with different things helps. Just guys that like stump shooting and stuff like that, right? Going out and hitting that dandelion flower or whatever. And, that's all beneficial. It's all good for helping the hunting process for sure.
Now, from it, what would you say, what was the most common thing you'd be shooting though? When using a shot like that, what was the most common thing you'd be hunting?
Oh, iris birds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to do quite a bit of duck hunting and stuff like that. Coming to the decoys, the odd jump shooting. The best shot I ever made was on a duck as a mallard in a creek system. I was with my buddy and this mallard went up and it was right to left. And I just automatically picked up on it and I hit it right in the head. And he was just like, geez. And he said, later on, sitting by the fire that night, he said, that shot, what did he say? He said it was 30% luck, 30% skill, 30% karma, and 10% Zen. I think that's what he said.
That's awesome. So duck hunting, small bird hunting seems to be kind of like your, a lot of those videos that you've emphasized, all your shots have been around is that fast twitch, fast flight bird accuracy, right?
Yeah, like I've hunted woodcock before with the bow, and you're obviously not as successful. One of the things that's really fun to do, people should realize it in the summertime, is go in a field and hunt dragonflies, flying. Like from 15 yards away, try to shoot a dragonfly. And I tell you, it really changes your perspective on how you acquire the target and how you focus. It really helps focus like immensely, because you have to really focus on that in order to even get close. And I have to be honest, 9 times out of 10, those dragonflies, they live in a different world time-wise, right? They see time differently than we do. And so they'll jump the string. They'll be in the air, and at that last second, you'll see them go like this. And the arrow fly right, this, and because they can see the arrow coming. They just have a different perspective in time. But you know that it was a good shot when you see them move like that. And every once in a while you catch one. But it's just fun. It's just a great fun thing to do. And people say, "Oh, you shouldn't hunt dragonflies." Well, I don't damage the population a whole lot.
I love that. I think I'm gonna have to try that for sure.
Yeah, you should. It's a lot of fun.
What kind of tip do you use to hunt? Just like a small
judo points.
Just like a regular field point to peck them off?
The judo points?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's just nice because you pretty much can't lose them. Right? They're hard to lose. And then the flus, of course.
And the flus, right. Yeah. What are your thoughts on turkey season?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Except that this year, like Lucy's out in Whistler, BC right now.
Right. And
Will's going to be in Italy for most of the time. So I won't have my 2 best favorite hunting buddies with me. So I'll be going out alone all the time. And it's just not the same. Right. It's more fun when I have.
What would you say your preparation for turkey is? How would you, what's your preparation for turkey?
Calling. Yeah, I'm going a totally different direction than what you thought. But yeah, for shooting, yeah, it's just getting sharp. I made a video, I don't know, several years ago, where I had a small little bottle about this big. I had a print of our turkey head on it, and it was just swinging, and it's just like, it just that kind of shooting to anything moving fast. Just it changes the way your mind focuses. It allows you to focus really, really. If you try, you can focus a lot more clearly on a moving target because you don't have time to question it.
Right.
Either you're in on it and focused or not. And so it's a great way to learn instinctive archery, anything moving, swinging, throwing, because it trains your mind for target acquisition. And that's what instinctive archery is all about, is target acquisition, acquiring that target, knowing what it's going to do, where it is.
Right.
And I have a problem with target archery, like the color targets.
Right.
Because my mind, they have the yellow, right? And then they have the red, and then the blue, and then the black.
Yep.
But they're this big, right? I see that. I see the whole freaking thing. I really have a hard time getting past those other colors to the yellow. And it's like, if someone were to, if 9 women walked into a room naked, I'd have a hard time trying to focus on which set of breasts to look at. Right? And that's instinctive shooting right there. That's where I have a problem with target archery, is I see all those rings and I cannot differentiate. It's like same thing when they have targets, like, multiple targets, like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
I see them all. I can't my mind just works a certain way and I can't differentiate with them. Whereas if I just had that one little dot up there, not a problem, not a problem at all. But I have a hard time getting rid of the noise that doesn't matter. And all those extra rings and colors, they're all noise that get in the way of me shooting. That's one of the reasons I don't like target archery.
Right.
Because I have a hard time getting rid of the noise, shooting instinctive. Mm-hmm. Now, shooting with like a gap, trying to use the tip of the arrow, that kind of thing. Well, that enables someone that would enable me to now focus because I'm using that sight pin. It's like a rifle, right? Use that sight pin in that bullseye. And so that gets rid of the noise for you. Mm-hmm. But when you've got nothing to look at except what you're looking at, it's hard not to see all that stuff.
Right.
It's just, it's everybody's brain focuses and works differently. That's just the way mine is, and why I don't like, shooting target archery. I just have a hard time.
I know you've been dealing with a lot of that controversy on instinctive and that, but I guess it's like what you said. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to articulate to someone how you perceive it. First of all, it could be a lot of the problems that you were having. How do you convince, or how do you explain to someone like how you see the world, right?
That's right. Everybody sees it differently. Everybody will do it a little differently. And I get that all the time. I get a lot of hate from people. No such thing as instinctive. You're aiming. No, because I'm left eye dominant. I'm also farsighted. I can't see my hand hardly without glasses.
Right.
So if I try to look at that tip of the arrow, it's a fuzz thing that's as big as my arm.
Right.
I just can't see it. And then not only that, but it's pointed in the wrong direction. So yeah, I don't look at anything, the bow or bow hand or nothing. It's just, it's like, how you can point to something without looking.
Yeah.
Right. You can just point automatically and you're there. That's just the way I shoot. It's a pointing thing. And it's not for everybody. Some people can do it. So not everybody's a quarterback. Not everybody's a linebacker. Not everybody's a pitcher. Not everybody's a catcher. Right. Everybody's going to have different strengths and weaknesses. And some people are going to try instinctive archery and they're not going to be able to do it. They don't have the same mind focus ability, skill set. They need to do it a certain way. And that's fine. But don't tell me it doesn't exist when you can't do it or say it doesn't work for you. And I'll be the first to admit that I'm not the guy you want on that, 70-meter line shooting an Olympic bow.
Right.
I'll be the first to admit I'm not going to be good on a 300 round and, at Lancaster or something like that. And I played with the idea of going down there one time and I was practicing and I just like, I just don't enjoy it. It's not because I can't do it. I just don't enjoy it. It's just not for me. I don't like that repetition. I like something new.
Right. But you've been pretty vocal about that from as much as I've seen on your videos too. So it shouldn't be a surprise to people when you have that stance that, it's just it's why everyone, it's either they love what you've got, which, I think is awesome, or they don't. But, to say that there's to give you hate is ridiculous, I think, personally.
Yeah. I wrote an article for Traditional Bowhunter magazine. I think it was in last April, May. And I think it was called Breaking Down the Instinctive Mystique. So I wrote, it's over 3,000 words. And they gave me that latitude to write that much. But I basically broke down instinctive archery, what it is to me, why I think it is, how I started, why I do what I do, how to, why it works, why it doesn't work.
Right.
I can send it to you if you want and have a look at it.
Yeah, by all means. And if there's anything that, for those who haven't read it, is there any sort of points from that article that you want to just kind of bring up right now? Or?
Well, yeah, I was a few years ago, I was on a shooting forum, shotgunning. Because I love shotgunning and grouse hunting and stuff like that. And there was someone mentioned about Robert Churchill.
Right.
And his method of instinctive shotgunning. Well, right away that caught my eyebrows, like instinctive shotgunning, because I learned archery from shotgunning. And it's not like, they have the bead on the end of the shot. I've never paid attention to the bead at the end of the shotgun.
Right.
Again, it's the same thing. I'm just looking at it. And so it's like, whoa. And so I bought his book. It's called Game Shooting. And it basically turned out to be what I think is the best explanation for instinctive archery there is.
Well, there you go. Game shooting, guys. Take note. I'll put the link in the description.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture of what the book looks like. And Robert Churchill, wrote it in like the 40s. But here's a style of shooting that's well respected in the shotgunning community and taught in exclusive, these fancy shotgunning clubs all around the world. Now, oddly enough, they have the same thing going on in the shotgunning world that we do in the archery, where there's no such thing as instinctive. You have to, so they'll have the same issues. They have people that are all on board with this instinctive shotgunning. There's people that aren't. And again, I think it just comes to the fact that not everyone's a catcher, not everyone's a pitcher, and so you have to find out what works for you and how to do it. But yeah, so that's what got me. So when I wrote that article, I based it on those methods. And it all comes down to, like, he'll talk about gun fit and mount, right? Shooting frame.
Yep.
Fundamentals, right? Anchor point, bow hand, mounting a gun, shooting. And in the article, I got a picture of my son shooting a shotgun and shooting a bow at the same spot. And it's like, he's like this, and he's like this. It's like nothing, his frame is the same.
Same format.
Same fundamentals are similar. And so, and it's about, then again, it's about how you pick a target. Like when you're shooting a duck, you don't shoot at the whole duck, you pick the head. You pick the furthest part in the lead, the smallest point you can think. The same thing in archery, you do the same thing, right? You pick the smallest spot. You focus on that small point. And they'll say that when you're shooting clays, just focus on the smallest little pinhead spot on the clay in the beginning of the target. And so all the concepts are exactly the same as instinctive archery. And so it's about how to see your shot and how to move with the shot, right? Follow through. Again, archery's follow through, right? You have to, you can't be dropping that or flailing that bow hand, or when you're shooting a moving target, you got to flow with it, right?
Right.
But that bow hand has to stay on target. And if you've got, good back tension, that hand's automatically going to come back to that, what I refer to as always the second anchor point.
Right.
Right. And so basically I broke down the article that way. And I talked about how people have different swings, and like in golf, for example, like you have to start off with the basics, a basic fundamentally shooting frame.
Yep.
And this is for a teaching purpose. Because I know you'll get a guy like Ishii, right? And just how are you going to teach that? You can't teach that. You have to start off with a basic plan. So there's a golfer that, I don't know if you remember back in the 60s and 70s, Lee Trevino.
Yeah, I heard of him. Yeah, Lee Trevino. Yep.
He was considered to be one of the best ball strikers that ever played the game. Now, he had one of the worst looking swings you could ever imagine. But what was important to him was the 4 inches before and the 4 inches after the golf ball. So that was 8 inches. That's what mattered, right? And so he had just a method where he could control that swing and do that. And that's what mattered. The 4 inches before the ball and the 4 inches after the ball. That's what mattered for his club face, right? Mm-hmm. But how do you teach that swing? You can't. So when I teach golf, I teach like Johnny Miller, the classic, one of the best golf swings that ever played the game. And so, you have to start somewhere, and then you take it and then you adopt it to your body type.
And I guess your shot style just naturally evolves from that foundation too, eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'll send you that article and you can have a read on it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Love to.
And yeah, I'm pretty proud of it because I think it explains it really well from my perspective. And then not everyone that shoots instinctive is going to have the same perspective either. So it doesn't mean that I'm absolutely right in the way it works. That's just right for the way how I see it and how it works for me.
Right. I think, for me, I kind of try and pay attention to everyone's successes and then, obviously try to work what I think could be beneficial into what my shot is. And, I think there are people who always want to emulate the people they think is the most successful. And maybe it's a disservice to them they're robbing their own style eventually by trying too hard to mimic someone else's.
You start off with the fundamentals.
Right.
And you work on those. And then you go from there. And so after you shoot and shoot and shoot, after a while, things become, ingrained, right?
Well, definitely. I would love to get the article, and I'll try to overlay some of the points visually into this discussion after the fact. But I think, we can obviously go on forever about instinctive shooting, but let's talk about hunting. Let's talk about hunting. Let's talk about some of our most memorable moments. Because here in Ontario, we got some pretty cool stuff to hunt. And like you were saying before, we're talking about moose. On your Instagram, you got tons of pics. But what's your most memorable hunting experience? What's the thing that either happened better than you realize, or maybe it just
one of the most memorable hunts is I was when I had that illness. I had chemotherapy and a stem cell transplant. I went from 225 pounds to 184 pounds. No, 174 pounds.
That's a significant loss.
And it was mostly muscle tissue because of the disease I had.
Right.
And so it was, I got out of the hospital in about the third week of February. And in that first season, it would have been, May, I went out and got a turkey. And that was a really nice thing because that was one of those things that, you know what? Because they say they never knew whether the procedure was going to work or what was happening. But just the way things were, that, I went out and I got my first turkey that year. It was with my bow, and it was a Jake, but I shot it in the head at about 18 yards, made a great shot on it. And that was just a nice feeling for me that things were going to get better. And that's a really memorable hunt for myself. I'll never forget that feeling of succeeding that way and doing it.
That's great.
Yeah. After, not knowing, being in a hospital, not knowing whether I was going to live or not. So
was there anything that happened, you got a wealth of experience that's where it didn't go what you thought?
Oh, all the time, especially deer hunting. I seem to be notorious of having deer come in off my right shoulder. It's like
yeah.
And always, I tell you, 9 times out of 10, I've got a 100% chance of getting it wrong. But yeah, so because I don't hunt at a tree stands. I bought my man card at a discount store. I can't go up past 4 runs on a ladder. I'm just too afraid of heights. So everything is always ground hunting to me. Still hunting, and I'll basically head into the woods and say, where am I going to go today, kind of thing, and try to figure out where they're moving or where I think they're going to move, and so it's not. I'm not very, very seldomly do I hunt the same spot twice,
right?
Because I'm always looking for something new and different, and so I might come by a trail that I think looks good. And then I'll see a spot and I could sit there for an hour. And so I'll do that. But 9 times out of 10, like I say, they'll come off a trail behind me or something like that.
The spot you don't want. Always the spot, huh?
Yeah, I remember one time it was wintertime. We had December. It was, I think it was Boxing Day or the day after Boxing Day. And we had quite a bit of snow on the ground. So I went back into the woods. And there's one spot where I knew there was a good trail. I knew there were going to be deer coming up. Sure enough, I'm sitting down on the ground. I've got a white wool sweater on, And, I'm just sitting on the ground with my bow there, and these deer come walking up, and there's like 9 or 10 of them. And there's this huge buck, nice big 10-point. And then there was an 8-point behind it. And then there was a couple smaller bucks. And then there was, 4 or 5 does. And they were all kind of moving together. And they got to the point where there was a deer behind me.
Yeah.
There was this beautiful buck that came right there. Just perfect broadside. So I go to lift my bow. The Velcro on my shooting glove caught on my wolf sweater.
No.
So I'm like, I can't get it off. And, and it was one of those where it was cold and quiet and still. And so you could hear their breathing, you could hear everything, right? And so hearing that would just destroy it, right?
Yeah, it's done.
And so it's what am I going to do? And so I can't, I'm right in visual. I'm as I get 12 yards roughly, and I can't move to fix it because they're going to see me. And so I have to make it. So I try to, and I gently do that. And next thing and snorting all over my. So you get lots of that. And that's what made, and I remember one time it was Lucy. This was for her first. She still hadn't gotten her first year, and we went out, and my wife had taken my son to a hockey practice, and then we decided we're going to go out to dinner afterwards, and we'll just meet you there. Okay, but what time meet you there? Oh, about 5:00. Okay, so we went out. Lucy and I went out for a hunt, and she went out this one spot, and I went out to another. Now my head wasn't in the game because I kept on thinking, we got to be out there in time to get out there for dinner, right?
Yeah.
And so I was never in the game. So I busted some does just, that came in. I just wasn't there. And so then, oh crap. So I waited. And then I realized, okay, we got to start going. And so I just get up, I start walking out sloppy, right? And so I get to where Lucy is, and she's madder than hell at me because I busted 2 bucks just as they were coming into her shooting.
Oh no.
And it's yeah, I still hear about that today. And
it's one of those dad moments.
Yeah. But
thanks, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what makes it all fun, right? You get the stuff if everything went well all the time, you wouldn't have any fun. It would be boring.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? So I mean, everyone's proud of the moments that obviously do go right, but I think some of the best stories are the ones that totally screw up on you, just like that, right? I mean, everyone's got them, but there's so much. They're fun to share too, right?
Well, yeah, and that makes it real. Right? We've all had those perfect moments, that animal comes in, you make the perfect shot and stuff like that, but they never really resonate the same way.
Right.
Except for, my son got, when your kids get their first one, that's always that to me always be the most special hunt of anything I've ever done. And when Will got his first, he was just 12, and he people are going to get all mad. He shot it with a crossbow, and so what? He shot it with a crossbow at 6 yards. Okay. And so he was 12 years old, and a friend of mine, Ian, had this, old Barnett crossbow, a wooden crossbow. And, here Ian shot his first deer with it. We got his nephew shot his first deer with it. This crossbow means a lot to all of us, And then so, had Will went out and picked a spot. It was Will's hunt. So he picked a spot where to go. And that whole first season, he kept passing up does because he wanted to shoot a buck. And it's I'm going I'll let you shoot. I'd like to shoot something too sometime. Hurry up. But anyway, he's taking his time. And for a 12-year-old kid to pass on does that are clearly easy shots.
It's a lot of restraint.
A lot of restraint and respect for him, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we'd go out, and then so we had this one time where this buck came in and busted us, came just about right on top of us. Okay, that we lived through that. So the next day we went out. No, it was next week, because it was we went out the day after rifle season here. So he goes, where are you going to go? We got to go in the swamp. That's where they are because they're all been hiding in the rifle season. Okay, so we go out there. He picks a spot. I bring out the antlers and I do a little bit of rattling. And then this one buck comes in. It's on a string. Respond at those antlers, came right into like 6 yards. And he makes a perfect shot. But what was really hard about it is the bolt, they're only this long, right?
Yeah.
Well, it only went in about that far.
Jeez.
It's like, what the frig happened here?
Yeah.
Now, my friend Ian had expandables on it, and he swore by them. I was going to put a fixed blade. He said, no, just keep that. That's what works well. So we kept that in there. Anyway, the bolt only went in part way, and the deer took off. And we, left it sit for a little while, 20 minutes, half an hour. And then we started, Will goes and picks up the blood trail. He's doing this all on his own, right? And I'm just kind of following him around. And so he finds the bolt. And yeah, it's broken, So then what happens is we bust the deer. The deer takes off, and we're deep in the swamp, right? And so I said, we got to back out. We got to leave him. Come back in the morning because we're starting to lose our light.
Right.
And so we left him. And we both had a sleepless night that night.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to lose your first, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so he goes back and he picks up the trail again. Within 15 minutes, he found the buck dead right where we thought it had gone to after we busted it. And so Will had found it. He recovered it. It was just like a really proud moment to see this 12-year-old kid handle himself like a seasoned hunter, like as well as any seasoned hunter could. And just the experience that he had, I guess, is chasing me around too. Like following me around all those years. I guess things rub off, I guess maybe, but that was one of them. It was a beautiful 6-point, big bodied, wide, just a beautiful deer, and just very proud of him. It was a really nice moment. And as again, it was with a crossbow. So what? Like he had to do all the work. He had to. We had to get it in 6 yards just because he didn't use and the thing is, he was shooting at the time, but he was 12, right? And
probably better they did use that, in all honesty. I mean, all the hunting principles are still there that you're taking in, but the shot process is a touch different.
Yeah. And I mean, he developed into he's got amazing form. He's developed quite a really good shot. He hasn't shot very much in the last few years. None of us really have, but because he's working down in Kitchener right now.
Right.
He went to school, university, and same with Lucy, went to university. And so they both graduated. He's working down at Shooter's Choice. I don't know if you know them, down in Kitchener, the big gun shop.
I'm not quite familiar personally, but.
Yeah, when he went, it was about 10 minutes from where he lived at university. So he got the job. It's his second year university, and he's been working there ever since. But he teaches handgun safety courses, and he's a range officer, and he's a gun room manager. He's not going to do it too much longer, I don't think, because he's going to be looking for other things.
Yeah, with all the crazy laws coming through, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Well, it's been a great job for him for the past, I don't know how many years, 5 years, 6 years or so. And we'll see where he goes from there. But
hopefully nothing but the best.
Yeah. But he's a smart kid, so
that's good.
Yeah.
So what I would like to actually ask you, kind of speaking of kids in a way, because you obviously had a chance to teach them right from the beginning, what you've learned and everything. If you were to go back and teach yourself, like what you could do differently, would there be anything you kind of coach yourself on how to form, or the kind of things that you would just kind of know better and want to teach yourself from the very beginning? Well,
yeah, my learning curve would be so much shorter, obviously, because to me, I'm going to go down to that whole bit about shotgunning again is the mounting the gun. Mm-hmm. So shooting frame.
Right.
One of the things that people don't realize about shooting frame, and if you don't have your shooting frame, you lose range of motion. If you're hunched, your back is hunched, you're leaned over like this, you don't have the same range of motion for back tension than you do up here.
Right.
You'll notice that if you're hunched over and you're drawn, you're going to lose 1.5 to 2 inches of length in your arrow, right? So you're going to actually lose your draw length. As soon as you're here, then you can expand through your chest, right? So watch here, I expand through my chest now. Now all of a sudden, my draw length is 2 inches longer than it would be if I was hunched over like this.
Right.
So maintain that shooting frame. I think that's just so important, because it gives you that starting point. And a lot of the trad police are going to get at me and say, you can shoot however you want. You can shoot standing on your head if you want. If it works for you, fine. But if you're just starting out, it's a good place to start. You might as well start out at the most optimum place. And then whatever your shooting frame works for you, that's what you need to start off with. But people don't realize that when you don't have that shooting frame, you're losing draw length and you're losing the ability for those mechanics to move, motion, because you're hindering. I can't expand my chest when I'm here. Here, I can expand my chest through the shot. I can't do it when I'm down here because my back, shoulders hunched over. It's like, it's like this, right? For this to contract, this has to expand.
Right.
So for my back muscles to contract, my chest has to expand.
Mm.
If I don't have that range of motion, I can't contract very well. So now I'm going to use my arms to pull instead of my back muscles.
Yeah, that's great.
That's probably the singular most thing I would say to people starting out is get that shooting frame established. And then you can
people listen close to Jeff. He knows. Jeff knows.
Well, I know for me anyway. That's just my own personal opinion. I think in any sport, shooting a foul line, you get your frame in place first.
Yep.
And make things repeatable.
Mm.
Right. And for optimum motion and optimum movement. Because you have to look at the movement that's required to complete that shot.
Right.
Right. And so that to me that's the number one thing on anything, is getting that shooting frame established.
Mm.
And then once you have that, then it's just a matter of going through the motions.
Right.
I think so many people have different things, their problems with the shooting. And they'll say, it's my release, or it's my bow hand, or it's this or that. Well, 90% of the problems that are associated with shooting are associated with back tension. Fix the shooting frame to fix the back tension, and then those things will go away.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, your release won't be bad anymore because you have the back tension controlling the release.
Well, Jeff, it's been I've taken so much out of this. I mean, like I said before earlier, I've been watching your videos forever, and obviously visually when you watch them, it's easier to see you take the shot and to talk about it when you're actually showing it. But where can people find you now? You've been off YouTube for a bit, but where are you at now? I know you're on Instagram, but if you could let the audience.
Place, really, Instagram. Yeah. I don't have a cell phone, so I don't. I'm not on social media a whole lot. I'm trying to. I don't know. Making videos is okay. I don't want to do videos anymore. I don't want to be in that public eye. I just want to kind of melt into the background. And I'm enjoying the writing. I'm doing quite a bit of writing now. I've got a few more articles that have been coming up in Traditional Bow Hunter, and I write for Ontario Out of Doors. I write for Project Upland. There's other magazines I'm working at getting into too. So I'm just enjoying doing some outdoor writing now, and that's the way I'm trying to voice my opinion over videos.
That's perfect. Well, everything you have done in the past, and hopefully everything that you do now and present into the future, people can look on and appreciate, because you've had such an impact, I'm sure, on not just me, but there's been a lot of people that I'm sure you've affected that you're not even aware of. So hopefully that continues.
I'm just glad that those things have helped. I mean, it's the whole reason I made them is to, the satisfaction I get of them is when people are happy.
Yeah.
I got a nice message from a fella the other day because there's a piece in Traditional Bowhunter Now. It's understanding back tension. And so he wrote to me and he said it was a game changer for him. And it's like, wow, that makes me feel really good. That makes me feel, that's what makes me happy to write an article like that, is to have someone read it. And then all of a sudden the light goes on in their head and then they understand something, because back tension is one of those things that's really difficult to understand. People talk about it, but, and that's one of the things when I talked about introducing the second anchor point. Years ago, I did that video where I made what they called a second anchor point. Didn't really talk about back tension, but it's more of a teaching method in trying to get people, because not everybody is going to understand things the same way.
Right.
And so I was really happy to see that when I did that, a lot of people that couldn't understand back tension understood what I meant when I said about having that. And so they start focusing a different method and they're getting good results. So that made me happy.
Well, I know my wife thought I was crazy when all of a sudden I was just sitting by my computer, just practicing the second anchor foot. So I think one video suggested try just to practice. So I was doing that nonstop. People, what are you doing? I'm like, hey, I'm just doing what Jeff told me to do. Just practice.
Well, it's muscle memory, right? Like, it's funny. Like this, they say some of the best practice you can do when you're going to sleep.
It's just like the visualization.
Visualization.
Mm.
And you can visualize and do that same shot over and over and over again, but your muscles don't recognize the difference. Your mind doesn't recognize the difference.
Mm.
If you focus your attention, you'll see all the great, like, guys like Sidney Crosby and stuff like that. You'll see them before the game, well before anyone's near the ice or in the arena, and they'll be sitting on the bench just with their stick going like this, looking at the ice. And they're just visualizing in their head themselves in that moment, right?
I think I've heard other archers talk about that too, and I think that's a massive part of it. I think that's a tremendous aspect of just of being a human, is having that gift to visualize it.
I talk about that with shooting too, and I talk about that with instinctive archery, like wing shooting, for example. We've all had that. I don't know if you've ever done any duck hunting. But anyone who's duck hunted have had that opportunity where they've seen those half a dozen mallards from 200 yards away, and they're coming straight into your decoys. And as they're coming in, they're coming in. And as they're coming in, you're in your mind, you're going through a checklist. You're going there, okay, and I'm going to and they're going to swing this way, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And they get on top of you, and you unload your gun, and you haven't hit a thing. And it's like, what the heck? Because you weren't in the moment. You were playing around with your checklist. You were playing around with doing what you think you should do. Right. And then the next time you'll have a green winged teal come at Mach 1 in the corner of your decoys in the corner of your eye, and you just go up and boop, knock it down. And you go, how did I do that? Because you didn't overthink yourself out of the moment. As soon as you start to think about your shot, you're now behind. Because you're not living in that moment anymore. You're living in the past. You can't catch up. And so if you're thinking about the shot when you're shooting, you got to think about that bird going down, not about how you're going to approach the bird.
That's the best. That's the best advice right there.
Yeah, your mind has to be in finishing. It's like, I mentioned that in this article. I talked about golf again. And so you come to a hole in golf and, it'll be like out of bounds on the left. And then there's river coming through.
Yeah.
And it's like, where do people do? They either hit it out of bounds or in the river. Or they hit it so far right, they're on another fairway.
Yeah.
Because their mind is telling them where to hit it. And your mind can't differentiate between good and bad. Mm. Right? If you got Tiger Woods, you think he's thinking about out of bounds when he's hitting? No,
No, not at all, obviously.
he doesn't even come into his equation. The out of bounds in the river hazard doesn't even come into his equation. It's not even in his mind. Because only in his mind is where he wants that ball to land on the green, right? Whereas all of us other hacks, we're worried about going out of bounds, so we put it out of bounds because that's where our mind is.
Mm.
And that's why, like guys with target panic. So target panic is people worried about where they're going to hit it or shoot, right? If you're worried you're going to miss, you're going to miss. It's like, if you think you can, you think you can't, you're probably right.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's that mind frame of being in the moment and not being in the past. Being there and because if you're worried about lead and you're trying to do lead, well, you're already behind the bird and you're already going to miss because your mind can't catch up to the moment. Mm-hmm. So your mind has to be in the moment. It starts in your mind. Your eyes are just the pathway to get there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not an easy thing to do. And it was just saying, it's about having that confidence built up. That's the other part of instinctive. And that's the other part of what Robert Churchill talks about in his book is having the faith and be able to actually pull the shot off, knowing that you can do it so that you're not thinking about the shot. You're just reacting to the shot. And that's what instinctive archery is reacting to the shot.
That was big. That was a big point right there. I mean, that was, I got to highly emphasize what you just said about all of that, because the visualization, the moment, I mean, like you said, how could you really teach that? It's something that you just have to either experience and get to. Because once you're there, you don't even realize you're even there. You're in it. But it's
as I say, we've all had those ducks come into the decoys where you line them up and you're ready and you miss and you're going like, what the heck? And then that one comes out of nowhere and you just react. Yeah. Your mind is way stronger and way better at calculating and doing things than you are. If you have to let it happen. That's what instinctive archery is, just letting it happen and having faith in that shot and knowing that you're going to hit it. If I go into any, like say, all those trick shots, if I go into any of those trick shots thinking I'm not going to miss it, I'll miss. Miss for sure. So our mindset has to be, you should be surprised if you miss, not surprised if you get it.
That's awesome.
And that's why people talk about hitting a swinging candle, because they're not surprised if they miss. They're surprised if they get it. And that's the wrong flip side. You should be like surprised if you miss because your mind's in the right spot. And so that's the mindset that you have to have when you're shooting or playing any sport. Any professional athlete, Tiger Woods, Wayne Gretzky, they were all, they were surprised if they miss.
That's perfect. That's how could we top that? That's the best way to wrap that one off. That's one of my favorite lines. Okay. I'm surprised that I missed.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Jeff, you are the best, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And, I'm going to put all the links to your YouTube in the description and obviously your Instagram. Like I know you said you're not actively doing anymore, but for those who want to catch up to everything you have done, I mean, the work is timeless. It can transfer generations. Technically, you showed the foundation in them. So I suggest highly everyone follow back on Jeff's videos on YouTube. And do you mind if people reach out to you on Instagram if they have any questions?
No, I've always, if people contact me, I always, if I see, I'm usually checking in at least once a day.
Okay, perfect.
For something to do. And so I usually see messages.
That's excellent. Jeff, I really appreciate it. Yeah, I really appreciate taking the time to do this. And I hope everyone got a lot out of it. Yeah, no, it was fun. It was nice to meet you. I really appreciate it, Jeff.
Yeah, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.